podcast is brought to you by Guiding Growing Minds, a social enterprise that aims to give all children the best opportunity to reach their potential and succeed in living rich and meaningful lives.
Dr. Billy Garvey, we are back. Episode 101. Edward Scissorhands and connection. What are people going to learn this week?
Yes, so it's amazing that people are enjoying the pod, but I did realise that we missed a step with the co-regulation. There's a step before it, and we thought we'd spend a bit of time practically talking about how you connect, and you brought some beautiful wisdom and insights, as always. So hopefully a very helpful app.
We both brought some Griswolds and Winslows too, which I think people will be able to connect with. Guys, enjoy the episode. Make sure you send through all your questions as well. If you're listening to this in the first week, send them through to popcultureparenting@gmail.com or via our Instagram channel, Pop Culture Parenting. But enjoy the episode and we'll speak again soon.
Hi, I'm Billy, a developmental paediatrician.
And I'm Nick, a developing parent.
We're going to use scenes from iconic movies to talk about how we best support our kids.
This is Pop Culture Parenting.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.
Dr. Billy Garvey, we are back in 2025. How are you?
Good, mate. Dr. Nick, it's official. From the...
I look at the plaque in my room. I haven't mounted it on the wall. It's there.
When are you opening up appointments?
Oh, God. What would I talk about myself?
No, mate, you'd have so much advice. But I'll tell you what, it is good to see you.
It's been a while. I haven't seen you for nearly a month.
Nearly a month, which is a very long time for us. As I texted you yesterday, turns out distance does make the heart grow fonder.
You were 3,500 Ks away. And
did you miss it, mate?
It was too far.
Did you miss
it? It was too far. It was too far. No, I did. It was strange not having the high contact and high frequency. But it was funny. If I message Billy, you typically get back to me, honestly, within 15 minutes. You're very responsive.
Yeah, I'm like that
right?
about, yeah.
You're like,
just,
bang.
yeah.
Oh, no, it's just me, right?
Sorry, yeah. Just
anyway.
with you, mate.
But I texted you, and I swear, it took 4 days.
Oh,
5
yeah, we
days
went
at
off
one
grid.
stage. Yeah, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what did you do?
Off grid. Well, we were in Western Australia in a great, but the RV I think was close to the age of my 20-year-old Subaru, so it suited us well.
Similar vintage.
We fit in. It was definitely our aesthetic. But yeah, in an RV, and it was amazing, mate. It was just what the doctor ordered because, I found like all this weight coming off me and stress and all that stuff, and just time with the kids, just time close to the kids, and we're massive beach people, so just sat at the beach. I got to tell you though, mate, we met a lot of Western Australians.
Nice.
And I think we might have to go over there for a tour, but possibly to live because, mate, they're all lovely, funny, and really good looking. So I think you and I would fit in really well.
So they're aged. They've got a few miles on the face.
But no, they're just beautiful people. And it's the first time I've spent a significant amount of time in WA. And it's obviously just stunning, mate. So it was really amazing. Got to meet some really cool people. And I was actually this wasn't in WA, but I was on a beach and a lovely couple came over and said like how much they loved the pod. And it was really funny because they're like, where's Nick? And then they pointed to this huge yacht that was off the coast and they're like, is that Nick? Is that Nick's yacht? And so yeah, just met lots of amazing people. So it was really cool. It's I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I just love people coming up and saying hi. I know I've said it before, but yeah, people seem a bit hesitant and I'm like, no, I love getting to meet people. It's this beautiful way of meeting people.
Yeah, I have a it wasn't a beautiful way of meeting someone in my Griswold for this week, but yeah, it was nice acknowledgement from this person. It was but I'll get to that in a moment when we go through our Winslows and Griswolds. We got anything else we got to go through first?
Yes,
Billy?
thank you. Good reminder. So yes, the one thing that I always get reminded by the team is Patreon. Patreon is growing, which is awesome. There's going to be a live Q&A for paid Patreon members. I think it's like $5 a month or something. The guys have set it up. So please come over there. It helps us be sustainable. It looks like we're about to have a PA coming on to help us with everything, which is going to be awesome. They had 360 applicants for that position. So thank you for everyone. We're going to build a team, a bigger team.
I didn't make it through the first round, but go on.
But your talents are elsewhere. You are pure talent now. And and we're also going to, a little bit of a teaser, so don't give too much away.
Ooh.
But we are returning to the stage sooner than anticipated, and there will be a pre-release for paid Patreon members on that as well.
And so we're not telling people about that.
Well, there's going to be a proper partnership. Okay. It's with a big institution.
Okay, because I definitely haven't told a couple of people. No, that's fine. I definitely haven't told a couple of people close to me. Just in case. But good.
Hopefully you told Henry, because I remember when you were trying to get seats for the live show, and you forgot to get one.
I told her. I haven't told anyone in the public forum. Okay, that's great. No, awesome.
It's coming soon. But yeah, so we're just trying to, the podcast, every element of that will still always be accessible to everyone, but we're just trying to do some sustainability stuff on Patreon. So that's coming, which is really exciting. Fantastic. Amazing feedback on the polls that we ran about. What do you want to see more of and all that stuff? Yeah. Please, 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 there is a back catalogue that is evergreen. So many people asked for topics that exist.
What were some of the bigger topics people asked about?
Sleep stuff, neurodiversity stuff, anxiety stuff.
Blade Runner is excellent. Go back and listen to that one. It's a cracker.
Yeah, Blade Runner, the sleep one. Yeah, the sleep one gets used, which is so impressive. It gets used in clinics all around the country.
Big Daddy?
Yeah, Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Yeah. So there's, so it's all that stuff is there. There's also people who are like, oh, we wish there was cheat sheets. I've been making cheat sheets since day one. So it's just that they're not, and you've got expertise in this, but they're just text on social media. So we're going to put them into the Patreon for, I think, all Patreon members, but they exist on the website as well. And the website has the back catalogue, so please go there. We also got a little bit of feedback of... the eps are a bit too long, but I have to apologise to those people because for every one of them, there was 100 people that were like, don't change the length.
Yeah, So we're still going to be listening. We're listening to you.
But the majority of people. So it's a democracy, so we will still keep running.
Just get me on 1.25. It'll go a bit smoother and quicker. You can skip what I say a bit as well on the long questions.
No, mate,
let Billy roll.
All the gold's you. So, I think maybe that's everything that I needed to say. But
Beautiful.
But yeah, it's been really wonderful seeing how well everything's going. And please, we also love all the reviews, so that really helps us. So we read all of them; they're amazing. The messages that are coming in, it actually makes my day. People send in messages about how much it means to them, or how something we said has changed what they've done, and they've connected with a kid really well, and all that stuff. And that means so much to us. It's really hard to get back to them. We can't get back to specific questions just because of how many are coming through. We also, we are not having guests every day. We're still getting an invite to have someone on. We don't have guests. And thank you for reviews of the book as well, because the book, we're still trying to find the right person overseas, the right publisher. It's more about reach than money, with all this stuff. We're just trying to change and give science to communities to support the future of these kids.
100%.
So we're still looking for that. So people who are asking for the book overseas, but please keep leaving reviews if you liked it. maybe hold on the review if you didn't like the pod
lukewarm.
or the book.
Yeah, lukewarm.
Yeah. So I think we're good though. So
good.
Do you want to start with
your Griswold? Yeah. No, and I hope I framed it up nicely at the start. This person didn't do anything wrong. It was I did something wrong, and it was just I was embarrassed. So let me tell you what happened, Billy.
Well, let me give us the great man.
Give me the great man.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
Just a bit of a light-hearted Griswold to start the year, Billy. It was away in a coastal town, a couple of hours from Melbourne. Lovely Sunday morning, bustling Sunday market.
Beautiful.
Right? So busy. Away with a few families. Fantastic. Love going away with these guys, having a lot of fun. Walking into town, it's a bit hot, everyone's a bit sweaty. And sort of one of my kids not doing too great. And we get to the sort of front doors of the market and I'm like, come on, let's go in. I think I introduced pressure into the situation. Do you want to go in? We don't have to go in. Come on, let's go home. Not a threat, but we don't have to go in. Let's just go.
Is there any of that in it?
Yeah, there's
Is there
probably
a touch of like...
there is, and so
Totally, I do
I'm
too.
guilty. I'm guilty of it, but we're a few hours into the day. There's a lot going on, and we've walked a bit. So I introduced pressure, which is a bit of a crappy thing to do, but I did it. Don't introduce pressure, Billy. So we get in there, we get up there, and it's all, we're in, and we've got everyone in, and we're all walking. Everyone's lost, But let's all meet at the main stage. This is a local sort of folk band, older folk band playing. We're all sitting there, and I see the kid that I've introduced the pressure to sitting on themselves, centre stage, bang up the front. I'll take the opportunity to go up and repair this situation, which I have stuffed up. I go up and I sit down, start chatting. By ourselves at the front of this stage, there's 100 people watching, and I sit down, I'm chatting. Chat. She stands up, walks away from me and sits 5 metres down the road. And I go, oh, this is embarrassing. Someone next to me goes, hey, you got that podcast? You got that podcast? Sorry to disturb you. You got that podcast on parenting? And I go, yeah, it's going pretty well. And they were like, don't worry about it. Like they were awesome about it. And I'm sitting front and centre at this stage, and it's clearly what's happened. My kid doesn't want to bar me because of what I've done 5 minutes earlier and thinking I'll just come in and smooth things over. So the thing is, I stuffed it up at the start. I didn't intend to, and then my public repair didn't go great, and then but that's the person. I thought it was funny.
It's so funny, but it's so on point for what we're going to talk about today. But also, mate, it's one of those hard things, isn't it? Because you kind of know that you've stuffed it up. We're going to talk about today, like whether you know in the moment that you're stuffing it up. We also have a similar one.
Yeah. Sorry. Can I just cover off a little bit? But it's that your intentions, right? You kind of there's this tension, Billy, between just a little bit of come on. I think sometimes, and you get it over the line, and then there's introduce it, and they don't like it, and they don't like you for a bit, and it's
which one's more important to you?
I don't not like being liked.
No, but what's more important to you, that they comply or that?
Yeah, in the moment. Yeah, making them comply, because we're channeling 12 people. Like we're literally 6 parents, 6 kids, and I'm trying to keep everything going in the right direction, and then I'm trying to get it to comply, which is the wrong thing to do. So it's not the most important thing.
No, but it's funny because that is you. You are often the person leading that charge and like helping us all. Yeah, but you're just amazing in that
busy
space.
Public holiday, long weekend away. It's just, and you just.
But you're so amazing at
you
like you become the primary parent whenever a group of us are together because you're so good at that.
Anyway, so
you're
I stuffed
phenomenal, mate. Like I did get. It sounds like we haven't seen each other all summer. I got heaps of time with you before I went away, and it's just amazing watching you parent and watching you, especially with both my kids, but especially with Evie. So
yeah, and the person was awesome, primary teacher from a local school in the area, down the road. So they were great. We had a good chat, and it was funny back and forth. So please come up and say good day. Anyway.
Yes. Do it to Nick as well.
And Billy, give me a
You might talk your ear off like I will. If you come up and say hi. Pretty much everyone's like, sorry, got to get out of here, Billy. Nice meeting.
Well, you do talk.
So no, ours is a good one. And I'm not going to say who did it because Annalise and I are a partnership. But is that completely throwing her under the bus? There's a 50% chance this was me. But we went up to the Gold Coast to be around family. So we had this like Christmas last one just gone. Yeah. Was just us. And it kind of, we ended up getting down, Victorian summer. It was rained out the whole time. So we couldn't leave this little place. We'd rented a little shack on the coast. And it just felt really lonely. It didn't feel right because it was like we weren't around anyone.
Christmas.
Yeah, and there was just no one around. This is, no family or anything like that. And so this year we were like, let's shoot up and be around Annalise's family just to get Evie around family and stuff. So it was awesome, but it was wild. And Evie's had like a month of no routine. Like she's just been sleeping in different beds and like all this stuff. So Christmas Day happens. She's been up really late the night before. She's with her cousin. She's like a high of life. So about 2 hours into her just kicking the wall at midnight and saying, I'm not going to bed, and screaming, we both tried what we're going to talk about today, like which is partially co-regulation and all that stuff. And I'm using all my moves and failing. And then she gets if you don't go to sleep right now, Santa's going to take all the presents back. Silence immediately, falls asleep. No crying, no distress, anything. Just falls asleep. Because the person who did it would say, well, it worked. So a week later, still in chaos. Like I said the next day, I was like, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Like that's not great and all that stuff. A week later, refusing to eat dinner. And we're like, well, you have to eat dinner even. She's like, what are you going to do if I don't? Take all my presents away? And she's 3.5.
They play this stuff back to you and you just like...
She's held it in her pocket to like, come and put this back. So, yeah, we're getting that a fair bit. She is, which was wild. We've had so much of that for a month of just like madness. And
Well, I think like most parents, I use the month of December. I use the, Santa's coming in a couple of weeks. I just say, I'm just going to leave that with you. And they just go, yeah, okay. You know what I got last night? I got, your room's a mess. And they go, so's yours. And we went, well, because we're too busy cleaning yours. Played it straight back to us. I was like, ah! It's like she's been watching the Australian Open tennis. She's just like, return serve, crack. And I'm like, God, they're so quick.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, sorry.
No, God. So anyway, it was a good lesson in
it's good.
This stuff comes back to you. So what about the great Carl?
Give me Carl.
I don't object to fun. I love fun. In fact, I'm the grand funk master of fun.
We live in Melbourne.
Yes.
May, June, July, August, September, a bit rough in the weather. I doubled down on swimming and it has paid off.
Yes.
It has been, my summer has been great because of this swimming, and my littlest one is just on swimming. And for me, I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I have put a lot in it and it's just kind of paid off. And I've done all those cold months in the pool. I mean, it's indoor heated pools, so I've got to temper what I'm saying. It wasn't
cutting through the
around
ice.
the bay. I didn't have an icebreaker. But, I walk with wet hair to the car park. It's cold in winter. But it has paid off, and it just, for what I saw with my oldest daughter, with the confidence build it did with her, it has meant everything. And she's taken that into so many other parts of life where she feels good about swimming. Now my littlest one. I got the call yesterday from my partner, Henry. She was at the pool with her and she goes, it's like the Nirvana cover of the album, Nevermind album. I go, what do you mean? She goes, she's underwater swimming now. And and I was like, I hadn't even seen that, but she was dog paddling 5 meters last week, just keeping her head above water.
Yeah.
And anyway, that has been my biggest Winslow for the summer. Just watching it, I just had in my mind, I was like, I wonder if she'll be able to swim by the end of summer. And we've just been going. We go twice a week, every week, and it just doesn't come naturally. They're not natural water babies by any stretch. And neither was I. I ended up later in life being a lot of swimming and stuff. But I was a terrible swimmer in high school and all that sort of stuff. Didn't compete or swim in, whatever. But just watching that and just hearing that story yesterday, Henrietta calling me, just like, my God, it's like Nirvana, baby, on the front cover, nude, swimming underwater. And I just was like, hallelujah, we've done it.
Yeah, it's amazing, the swimming thing, isn't it?
It's amazing.
With Evie, it's about being like one of our best mates that we spent some time with in WA. He's been the most mentioned parent on the pod. He's phenomenal parent. His son is like a little bit older than Evie, but so courageous in the water, and then Evie becomes more courageous. So it's this beautiful, it's actually like a social contagion where they just catch it a bit and go, that's sweet to do. And so, but the swimming, mate, it's awesome.
Well, I think we like it because it's so, it's such obvious development. Does that make sense? You're kind of like, where's my kid at on this thing or that thing? But swimming, you're like, there's a bit of a...
Yeah, you can see their capacity.
You can
really
see it.
Yeah,
I just love it. I've always loved it. But yeah, so that was cool. I guess I was just reflecting on the whole summer, and things that were good and bad, and that was my one. What about you? What
Beautiful.
do you got?
Yeah, very quickly. Kind of around the RV and just being together with Annalise, because we don't get much time together. Like, we've probably whinged about that the entire podcast seasons. But it was just amazing. And because I like run a fair bit and exercise a fair bit, I was like, I'll treat myself and get a running watch. Probably not me, but I gave it a try. Before we went away, it has like this thing where it's like when you should exercise next based on how you exercise. And so I did a run and it's like, sweet, exercise again in 72 hours. I was like, well, I'm exercising again in 6 hours. So, and so this watch is just telling me off the whole time. And then we go to WA after a couple of weeks and it's like, oh, exercise again in 8 hours. And the reason is because kids are there. We're sharing beds. You're going to bed at 7:30, waking up at 5:30, getting like solid sleep. Wasn't drinking booze, like eating pretty healthy and all that stuff. And I just felt so good. And I was like, oh, that's the answer. You just don't work. Just like,
you just go on holiday.
Yeah, permanently.
And sleep 10 hours.
It was really funny. So it's kind of been a really good insight into me. But you know, the interesting thing, because before we started recording, I was saying how amazing you're looking. And you were saying, yeah, you're just doing some stuff. But it's this, people might relate to this, which is why I'm saying it. I was like, sweet, I think I need to, stop drinking and all that stuff. And I just started having horrible nightmares. I was just in this RV, like just having these awful nightmares all about rejection and failure and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, because I was using like a glass of wine or a beer to relax. Yeah. And I was still relaxing with my family, but I just wasn't switching my brain off. So once all the kids and Annalise were asleep, I was just like stressing about stuff like crazy. So yeah, so it was good. Like it was definitely a Winslow, but it was this interesting thing about, which we're going to talk about today, about some of the coping mechanisms that we have. And I overuse exercise as a coping mechanism, and I need to be a bit better with sleep and all that stuff. Yeah, totally. So
well, talk to me. What are we doing here today?
Yeah, so what we're going to do. So yeah, the topic we're going to do very quickly. We know the film, yes, and the film. Great guesses. I was like, this is way too cryptic. No one's going to get it.
I had no idea what you were talking about.
Well, do you know what the funny thing is? A lot of people got it. A lot of people guessed other stuff, but a lot of people honestly told me like I had no idea. So I threw the image through AI, and it said Edward Scissorhands. And I was like,
what?
Yeah, And I was like, God, does that mean I'm a genius for like the images that I put together? Me and AI are at the same level. But yeah, and lovely person who got it said, I've already got the book, pass it on to the next person, which is just beautiful. Yeah, and we're getting a lot of messages about people sharing the book with the community for free. And so you guys are all amazing. Anyway, so Edward Scissorhands, let's talk about that in a sec. What we're going to talk about today is connection and how to connect. The reason is because we did co-regulation, but there's a step before it.
What's the difference?
We're going to talk about that.
Okay. We'll do the movie first, though.
Let's do the movie because I'll go deep. But we're going to go. A lot of people are like, Pod's amazing, bit more practical. So we're going to do a really practical topic 2 session this time. Edward Scissorhands, tell me, what do you think?
Great. I saw it in cinema as a kid, and I don't reckon I'd seen it since.
Yeah, really?
So it's like a huge rewatch. Was it 31 years?
90. Yeah, 1990.
Oh, my God. Fair income, 35 years.
Yeah.
It's truth.
Yeah, I wasn't old enough to go into a cinema.
You know what I love about the old films? There's they're a bit darker.
Yeah.
Like didn't protect the kids. Like that wasn't a kid flick. That would have been I don't think it would have been rated M, would it? Would have been a PG?
Yeah, maybe PG back in the day. Yeah.
Back in the day. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Winona, I think we've all enjoyed Winona in Stranger Things the last few years. It was really cool to see her back in her absolute heyday.
Yeah.
Post Heathers. And Anthony Michael Hall I have a real soft spot for, her boyfriend in it.
Yeah.
Because I was a huge fan of Breakfast Club. I was a huge fan of Weird Science.
Ah, yes. Why'd you like Weird Science?
Kelly LeBrock. Because I was
the science, wasn't
it? Yeah. I just was like, what's this? And it was a great film. We haven't done Weird Science. We should do Weird Science.
Yeah, totally.
And Burton. So and my partner's more into Tim Burton than me, and so she would talk me through sort of what this meant to what he then went on to do next and everything else. So
yeah, because he come off the back of Beetlejuice and Batman, which is why those two were there. And yeah, it's an interesting. I think Edward Scissorhands is funny because I think a lot of people watch it and go, oh, it's a bit silly. And so you can miss the meaning that's in it. It's a really meaningful, deep, beautiful movie.
Completely agree. And I can be really honest. Because my partner said, I studied this in year 10 or something. But I'll be honest, I watched it And I was like, God, there'd be a deeper meaning to this. And I have no idea what it is, Billy. So I'm so keen to hear, because I know you always read about it a lot more.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the meaning behind it? Because I was like, it's odd. He barely says a word, Johnny. So what is it?
Actually great. He barely says a word. That's if you remember one thing from this episode, that's a key to connection, barely saying a word.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's really interesting. So for people who don't know, hopefully everyone knows, but he's essentially a robot that Vincent Price has made as like a kind of a Frankenstein-like character. He's built a person. He's trained them in, there's interesting bits in the movie for context. He trains them in etiquette and things like that. What's the Elizabeth Roth or something, this author that famously wrote about etiquette. He's reading that book to him and then he reads him limericks to give him jokes and stuff. But he doesn't give him any social and emotional skills. And so what we see, and he actually, that's not the reason that Edward fails. So what happens in the movie is he is found by this Avon lady who wants to rescue him, Diane Weiss. She comes into the house and sees him and sees there's something different about him, but brings him in because her identity is like, I'm a caring mother, I'll bring him in. The problem is that it fails. So it fails catastrophically for him. He ends up, at the end of the movie, going back to the haunted house on the hill, and he stays there and he never comes back. And there's a reason that happens, and it happens to a lot of kids that we care about. He's different. Edward's different.
Different.
There's a lens that you could look at Edward Scissorhands, which we're not going to today, about inclusion and disability. And we see that where 3 times he gets told, I know a doctor friend that'll fix you. He's never said that he has any problem with it or that he wants to be fixed. But people are happy telling him that. A lot of people do that to kids and people in the community. Say, I know a way to fix you. You should never do that. And he also, there's actually nothing wrong with him. He has this beautiful ability in terms of what he can do artistically through his emotional brain and capacity, which is what we're going to talk about. He's very creative and artistic. And when the psychologist meets him after he breaks in, he says that to the cop. He's like, he's still a child. He's been isolated so much that he has this huge imagination and he's still a child. And he's very childlike. Caroline Thompson, who wrote the screenplay, talks about how I wrote him actually as my dog. And she had to tell Johnny Depp that because he's like, I just can't get this character. I don't know if you know, Tom Cruise was interested in the role, but asked them like, how does he go to the toilet? And they were like, cool, you're not the person for the role. So Michael Jackson, like really interesting people that like, it's interesting when you think about looking at him aesthetically.
Jackson.
Yeah. Michael
and the timid voice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really a quick side note about a funny story. I'm going to try and say this without sounding really arrogant, but I was really close mates with 2 guys that made movies. I don't know if I've told you this. Yeah. And they put me in one. I got to go to like the Chinese cinema in LA, most famous, and it was phenomenal. So I was like, that was my 15 split seconds of fame. But anyway, they got to meet Burton at a talk he did because they're like in that industry, and he was doing a talk and he came in to do like a 90-minute talk or something. And supposedly, for those who haven't seen Edward Scissorhands, he lives in this big haunted house mansion with staircases, and the movie ends with him up the top making an ice carving and the town snowing. And this person put their hand up and said, I've got a question to Tim Burton. It was like, how did he get the ice up the stairs? Like, supposedly Tim Burton threw this like hissy fit and just stormed out of like the Q&A. Because the whole point is like, that's actually not what the movie's about. The movie is about like suspending, reality.
There's so much suspended reality in it.
Yeah, but in a good way. For a reason,
no,
totally.
In a nice way.
And so what we see is that he has this beautiful artistic capacity, and he has some people that bring him in and want to help him, but actually don't have the ability to do that. They have really good intention, but they don't have the ability to help this kid. And this is so much of our community is kids that need help because they're different, not because something's wrong with them. And what they can't do with Edward, which we're going to talk about, is they can't connect with him. So they can't connect with him as a character.
Why not?
Because for a couple of reasons. They see him as different. They don't find similarities, which is what inclusion's all about. Celebrate difference. Find similarities with all kids, with all communities.
Celebrate difference.
Think about it. That's why racism exists. That's why like there's so much, the in and out group element is from 50 million years of being primates. Do you know what I mean? It was all about social hierarchy. It was all about control. It was all about pressure, like you were talking about before. And, that's what happens and goes wrong with a lot of connection. And that's where we have a lot of disharmony in the community, which is really rife at the moment. We try and make this podcast evergreen. But I think the answer is in this. The answer is in actually celebrating the difference. Now, they do superficially. All the women are like, oh, can you cut my hair? And all the men are like, he cuts all the hedges. Like, that kind of, it's an archetypal suburbia where the men go out at the same time and work. We never see any of them work. We just hear about their bowling. We hear about all that stuff. But none of them upkeep their garden. Edward comes in and does that, and they're happy for him to be a utility. They can't connect with him as a person. And no one does. Winona tries to, and initially she shuns him, doesn't she? She's like, he's a freak, get away from me. And then she realises that he's the actually only one that's compassionate in the whole town. And it's that beauty in him is because of his emotional brain that's been built, and he's beautiful about it, and no one can connect with him. And that's a lot of kids and where things go wrong in our community.
Does she connect with him?
She does, yeah. She does in the end. She does 3 times actually, and the first time is when he comes back after breaking into the house. Yeah. So, and for those who haven't seen the movie, because of his Scissorhands, he can break through locks, and the bad boyfriend convinces Winona to convince him to break into the house so he can steal all this stuff. Yep. And he says, I knew it was that house. Like, I did it because you asked me to. And that's because he is the one who's like the most compassionate and has the most social awareness and all this stuff. So Edward Scissorhands is this beautiful kind of tale, fairy tale, about someone who the intention is good, let's bring him in, but they'd actually they'd rather ignore the haunted house at the end of the hill when it doesn't pay off for them. Do you know what I mean? They don't get something out of it. He never really intends to hurt anyone either. No. He's cut himself. He's, he's cutting his clothing and all that stuff. But the only one time is defensively when, the guy's attacking him and Winona at the end, where he kills him. And a lot of people were like, that shocked them when the movie came out.
Shocked me when I watched it. I was like, good God. That's what I was saying. It's a bit darker back then.
Yeah, so Burton talks about how that was like this high school fantasy for him because he was this real kind of outcast, and he talks about how suburbia superficially looks like this pleasant place, but actually not in a demonizing way, but it's a lot of gossip and everything. They did some things that are really subtle with the movie. They made all the windows really small so that people weren't looking out.
I noticed that.
Yeah, so they're really insulated. They'd come out when it was safe and, gossip and do all those things. But the house is literally at the end of the street and they just ignore it.
And it was so enclosed, the houses.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It was really...
Yeah,
tight.
So he intentionally does that, and that's the pastel and all that stuff. It's this strict contrast between, the real world of things being a bit gritty and all that kind of stuff. So phenomenal movie that I could talk about for a long, long time, but we should go to the topic now.
What's our topic called this week, Billy? When we whack this thing up on the podcast, what do we call it? Edward Scissorhands and?
Let's say Edward Scissorhands and how to connect to hold us to that practical bit.
Beautiful.
Now, the reason there was a person who's amazing, who's on the Guiding Growing Minds team, who made this point with me recently, is like, she's got little kids and she's like, yeah, I remember I was trying to do some deep breathing exercises and he was just losing it and it was making things worse. And I was like, yeah, that's the problem. We did co-regulation, but we never talked about the bit before it, before you actually help them find calm, which is connect.
Prioritise connection.
Yeah. So prioritise connection. So when you're rolling into the market, like all of us, that's the step you missed to connect.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I actually think, so I'll ask you this question. How do you purposefully, frequently connect with your kids? Just connect with them. You're not trying to get them to do something. You're not trying to achieve a task.
Give me an example of what connection looks like.
Well, I've seen you do it. I've seen you do it frequently.
I think I do, but I just want to give me an example of where
So the last time I was over at your house and you got like a piece of foam and lay down on the mats and pretended that it was an obstacle they had to keep jumping over, and you did that for 20 minutes while Evie and Ronnie jumped over it and giggled. Yep. That's connection.
Okay. Yep.
So when we talk about connection, the way like Dan Siegel and Tina Bryson are phenomenal, probably the best parenting book that's ever been read. I've had the privilege of spending time with both of them. They talk about this kind of whole brain, and the upper brain being the thinking brain and the lower brain being the emotional brain. If you think about the brain as having two different sides to it, the logical thinking brain and the emotional brain, when you were doing that, you were connecting with those girls completely on their emotional brain.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, that is the most important thing, because what we know, and a guy called Donald Hebb, who was a Canadian psychologist back in the 40s, is the guy that built all the evidence about what fire is, wires, or what, yeah. So
Fires, wires, I love that one.
so what he's talking about, and he's proven this, is the more a synapse fires, which is an experience, especially an emotional one, the more likely it is to keep firing.
Yep.
And that's why joy is really important, because joy and play for kids increases their window of tolerance of negative experiences. Does that make sense?
Yep.
A lot of kids I see in clinic, the majority of their experience is negative.
Bulletproof. Yeah, sorry.
And people go, no, we need to sort out that. And I'm like, well, joy is part of the answer.
Yep.
And like the play that you do is all about emotional connection. Now, we make the mistake of thinking, I only really need to emotionally connect with them when they're struggling. But that's the hardest time to emotionally connect with a kid. So you actually have to earn it in calm when they can access that part of their brain in a safe way. Because one of the biggest threats to emotional connection is safety. Now, you weren't feeling unsafe going into the market, but you were like, this is going to go wrong. And so you turn logical brain on. Do you know what I mean? We turn logical brain on when you're like, it's December, when they're playing up, Santa's coming, or when we're like, we're going to take all Santa's presents.
Yeah.
That's like a threat, and that's power, and that's going back to like primitive behaviors of I need control, I'm the parent.
I'm going to arrest control right now.
Yeah,
Watch this.
and that just severs emotional connection opportunity. Now, our emotional connection, our emotional brain should lead us, and our logical thinking brain should help that. We often have it the other way around, but that's not the way the world works. Like you came in here and I had this beautiful, I haven't seen you in like nearly 4 weeks. We just had this beautiful emotional connection. Do you know what I mean? We're just talking and celebrating, seeing each other and, you know, giving each other compliments and being nice and all this stuff and connecting. That's an emotional connection we're having. And if we were struggling, our best chance of getting over it is all the hours and hours and hours that we've spent emotionally connecting in a safe, healthy, positive way.
Gotcha.
We just have to do that with kids. And I think you do that. I think that all of us, though, could think about it a bit more consciously. And
so you can kind of bank it.
You totally bank it.
That's
totally
what firing is basically.
Yeah, that's
firing,
that our brains connect. And there's even guys that have done this that show that in therapy. So I try and do this with families. Families roll in. Like I saw this amazing mum yesterday. She got 6 kids. She's really struggling. You know, awesome mum, and she's just like, you know, comes in really hot and he's like a bit fed up with all the services and child protection and all that stuff. And she's just like, I'm sick of it all and like really upset. And I just went there with her because that's the most important thing I'll do in clinic. Connect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I failed at connection yesterday with another family.
And so you don't placate them.
No,
you
it's not about. It's okay to have a tantrum. Like everyone worries about that. They're like, if I give in, then every time we're trying to roll into the market, every time we're trying to get into the car, every time we're trying to do this, they'll play up. That's not true. You will learn that harmony of emotionally connecting by doing it.
That. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but we do. We fail because we're like, no, firm boundaries. We need firm boundaries. Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to our fellows are starting this week, and this afternoon actually I'm going to talk to them about doing this stuff. And you know, it's really nerve-wracking.
Fellows like
So they're at the end of their developmental pediatric training and they spend 12 months embedded in our clinics. It's amazing. You're more likely, like some people still ask, can my kid see Billy? I work at a biggest tertiary pediatric hospital in the Southern Hemisphere, and you're more likely to see one of the fellows, and I pop my head in. They're phenomenal. They're really great. Yeah. And it's one of the privileges that I have professionally is I get to be part of training them. And I'm going to spend this afternoon, I've got all afternoon with them, I'm going to spend it talking about emotional connection and relational practice, not talking about how you diagnose autism or how much stimulant script to write for a kid with ADHD. That's the logic brain. The emotional brain is where most of us as clinicians stuff up because we're hierarchical, we're an authority, I'm the one who knows everything. But if I can come in, the first thing I ask every parent, especially the ones that I really know, so excited to see you, I'll spend the first 5 minutes just connecting with them. Talking about video games, the holidays, having a laugh about something, agreeing must be really hard, what you're going through, you're doing such an amazing job to that mum. But then I'm like, I got so much stuff I want to talk to you about, but what's more important is how I can help you today. Tell me how I can help. Do you know what I mean? And that's an emotional connection that I signal. My role is to help you. I'm paid to help you. That's what I want to do well. Instead of, I've decided we're going to talk about this. And we do that with kids too. Like, I've decided what's going to happen. And if we can think about what you actually need and sometimes say it out loud after we've said, I'm here, instead of okay, what do you need right now? And make some suggestions. Especially, sorry, I'm just ranting so much. I had this in my head. I've had this in my head for like a month. Especially if you connect emotionally on a shared goal. You know, I wish you were feeling better right now. You really wish we could do something fun right now instead of go to bed, don't you? Whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Good stuff, Billy.
Yeah, but that's like a 2-minute thing and you've emotionally connected. And you know, the girls have gone, oh yeah, Dad's amazing. Dad's realised that if we just peel off for 2 minutes and do something fun, we emotionally connect and then I'll go to bed.
You know what? You're actually right.
Oh, is that 101 episodes to get?
You're right. Because sometimes, you know, I mean, like, I have this reflection. Hand on heart, I reckon 3 months ago, maybe it's only 2 months ago, because we're here in Melbourne, bloody hot at night, house is hot, getting kids to sleep when it's not daylight at 9 o'clock at night. It's tough. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. Point is, sometimes you do that, you just catch yourself, as opposed to when they walk in, look at them with I do when they walk in to the kitchen, I'm trying to have dinner, I look at them as if like, I don't say anything, I just look at them, what are you doing?
Yeah, because they've come out of bed.
They come out of bed, for the 5th time. I'm like, what is this? I don't have... Anyway, but sometimes you sort of catch yourself and go, I don't know, I've just done it recently where you actually do it and then I can't remember, it's so arbitrary. Then they go to bed and never come back out again.
So do you know what you need to ask yourself to emotionally connect with them? What do they emotionally need right now? And it's not always because they're afraid or they feel unsafe or whatever. Sometimes they just need a bit of joy, they need a bit of connection, they need a bit of whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same actually, like we'll see what questions come, but it's like regression. A lot of people ask me, they start acting like a baby, you know, and I'll say, hey, you're not a little baby. Stop using that voice. Stop pretending you can't walk. Stop pretending you can't talk. You shouldn't do that. You should just be like, sweet, that's what they need. They need to be treated like that because it probably takes them back to a safe place where they were like, you know, that regression. A lot of mental health clinicians, we will talk about that regression is them testing and saying, am I safe going back to this? And we should never push back against it. We should be like, yeah, sweet. We couldn't get Evie to eat for like a week. And then in the RV, and then I was like, I came over to her and I was like, what am I going to use here to try and get her to eat something for dinner? She hadn't eaten dinner like for the first 4 nights of the trip or something, just blowing up about it. And she was lying there. I was like, oh, you look like a little cat, a little kitten. And then she pretended for 45 minutes that she was a kitten, only crawled, only meowed. She'd meow and be like, that means I want a pat. And then she'd be like, do another meow, and she'd be like, that means I want some more. Ate her entire meal. Because I was like just connecting with her on that. She just, as a cat,
scoop out some tuna into a bowl.
Yeah. Well, it was like pasta, like macaroni or something, and she just ate it all because we were connecting with her. We weren't battling with her, and that comes before co-regulation, the connection point. It's interesting. You talk about like
it is tiring,
catching yourself. 100%, totally.
But you're banking it. But hang on, you should remember this is tiring, but I'm banking it.
Yeah, you're banking it. Also, when they're struggling. So I said this, Annalise is a better parent and a better partner than me, so I don't want to sound like I'm constantly giving her instructions. But one night we were sitting there and I was doing some work or something and Evie was just really struggling and really calling out and crying in the bedroom. And she's like, I could see that Annalise is getting frustrated, which takes a lot, as you know. And I was like, just before she went in, I was like, hey, just roll in and see if you can get her to catch the calm off you. And you could see that she was like, yeah, okay. And she just rolled in and I was like, it's not about her stopping crying. It's not about what's wrong with you. It's not about, this is too late. It's all that stuff. It's just try and get her to catch the calm off you.
Catch the calm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's what you're trying to do. Like, and sometimes that is not the first step either. Sometimes it's acknowledging you're really frustrated and that's okay. And this is safe. You're safe to be frustrated. Whatever emotion you're feeling, I'm happy with it. I'm cool with it. Like that's, behaviors are different. It's an important distinction. But emotion.
Why? What's the...
Well, because if they're breaking a window, you're not like, it's okay, you're angry. Trash the place. Hurt other people, hurt yourself. Like that's not okay. And that kind of, it's really interesting. I'm trying to make sure this isn't a 5-hour episode. But a lot of us would talk about that disconnection is often because either internally or within a partnership with someone, which is what connection is really about. It's because we're either being too rigid and we're like, nah, this is the way it is. or we're being too kind of all over the place, we're being too chaotic or kind of flexible, and kids kind of
Being
get
a cool
lost in
mum.
that. Yeah, being a cool mum, and kids get lost in that because they're like, hang on a second, like I actually need a little bit of predictability. And I remember saying to a fellow last year, one of our best fellows that we've ever had, I said something. I was like, mate, key is being sensitive, predictable, responsive, and consistent. And he's like, yeah, Billy.
Sorry.
Yeah, sensitive, predictable, responsive, and consistent. And I said something like that. And he's like, because he knows me well now, he's like, what does that actually mean though? And I was like, yeah, that's a really good point. So we kind of went through each of them. Sensitivity in its core is about being emotionally sensitive to what's going on with the other person. Do you know what I mean? It's very hard when we're stressed because I'm like, I just lose sight of the other person, whether it's a kid or it's you. I told you I was recently earlier this year, I was in a car park and this woman was like being really aggressive and threatening to this old lady. And I just couldn't handle it selfishly because I was like, I cannot drive home not having said something made this old woman feel safe. And so I was like, hey, to this woman. And she just went crazy at me. Like the middle-aged woman was like putting a hand in my face, pretending to hit me and like, just screaming at me, saying all these things. Said to Annalise, like, I feel so sorry for you having lived with this guy and all this stuff. And I was just calm. But you know what she said to me, which is a really important lesson, halfway through like this tirade of like abusing me and saying all these awful things about me, she's like, oh, you're one of those effing calm guys, are you? And like blew up at me about that. And I was like, yeah, that must be infuriating for her.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And now I wasn't really trying to connect with her. I was just trying to make the old woman feel safe. And you made a really good point. I was like, what would you have done? You said, I just would have signaled to the old woman that I was there, like to make sure that because she's really frail and stuff, as I described to you, and was getting like quite intimidated by this woman screaming at her. And so it was, but it's such a good point that we lose that with kids sometimes. We're like, actually, if we go in and be like, all right, Nick, let's just do some breathing exercises, and we're trying to be calm, and the kid's dysregulated, it can actually make them worse because you're being logical. You're like, well, just do breathing exercises, you'll be sweet. And the person's like, no, my whole world has exploded.
Yeah, okay.
So getting in and connecting like that is a really important thing. But I mean, I think you're really good at this, mate. I think you do this really well.
Oh, yeah, but you're not there at bedtime.
No, but I'm there after the end of a work day when you're doing it with your girls, you're doing it with my kids.
Yep.
And I think I just don't know if you purposely do it or if you...
I'm not. But I just I know they like it, so I do it. But now I think... Look, I'll be honest. If I think I can bank something, because there's not many things you can bank.
Yeah.
Stuff I feel is fleeting. But now if I have that lens of, no, the emotional connection stuff will pay off further down the road or later on at night, I'll be more deliberate.
Yeah.
I'll be more conscious.
Yeah, totally. One of our best mates is, he was telling me like he just spends hours and hours just playing with them. And I was like, mate, you're amazing at that. Like it just seems to come naturally to you. And he's like, it doesn't. He's like, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I do it because I never experienced it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's interesting because so much of our own experience as kids is also a block to us connecting with our own kids.
Yeah.
Including like the anxious kids that I see, where I saw a mum yesterday, and this is I stuffed up connecting here, where this gorgeous kid who's in his mid-teens just comes in. I know him well. I've known him for years. He's humming, like literally in front of me, humming with anxiety. I was like, how you going, mate? Awesome to see you and stuff. Connection was not there. And he signaled it to me straight away. He's like, I'm not good. And I was like, what's going on? And this is crazy. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm a boomer or something, but he's like, yeah, since I saw you last, and I saw him like the second half of last year, he's like, essentially twice he's been had people jump him with machetes and take all his stuff off him or threaten to beat him up. And the mum, who's amazing and like really tough and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, I just went through everything with him. And then I was like, yeah, you're really anxious, mate. We've got to sort this out. Like, you're understandable. That's awful. I'm sorry that happened and all this stuff. And I was like, you are clinically anxious. And the mum's like, oh, I disagree with that. This is just like normal teen stuff. And you know, this is just normal teenager stuff and he's got to kind of learn to deal with that. And I was like, that is not. And she's like, it is, Billy. That's what the world's like now. I was like, okay, cool. But that's still not, like, we still need to support him with this. And I was like horrified. I don't know about you. I kind of just really get stressed about Evie and Charlie when I hear about that stuff happening in the community. And
I don't hear about that stuff.
Well, obviously all the advocacy work I do is like, well, that's what I sit in clinic and I'm like, often it's what's happening to the kids I see, not what they're doing, that I'm like, I'm never going to meet those other kids that are chased, stealing cars and, aggravated assaulting people and threatening them with machetes. I want to get stuff to them when they're kids and their parents supporting them and all the teachers that are amazing and supporting them through Guiding Growing Minds and the podcast and blah, blah, blah. But I often leave those days and I'm like, oh man, how do I protect Evie and Charlie from that? Do you know what I mean? And so it terrifies me. But anyway, do you know the mistake I made with that mum is I went into hierarchy. I was like, well, actually, he meets clinical criteria for anxiety, and I was like, no, I'm right. Do you know what I mean? I lost connection with
logic.
the mum. Yeah, I went to logic brain. I didn't actually acknowledge and connect with the mum and understand her perspective where she's like, no, he needs to learn how to deal with this. And I'm like, no, he doesn't.
What would you have said otherwise?
I would have just spoken to her a bit longer about where that's coming from her. And she, like a lot of us, she grew up with a lot of hardship. And I think a lot of us worry that hardship is the reason we're resilient. And it's not true. No. Our vulnerabilities and our wounds that haven't healed are because of that. And we shouldn't think that our kids need to experience that hardship. They need connection. They need emotional connection consistently with safe, trusting relationships. Love it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That says, I am valuable and safe. And we've talked a lot about attachment in the past, but this is different to that. This is like, a lot of the educators that are phenomenal, the most important professionals in the world, they will not form attachment relationships with kids, but they will be safe because they're consistently, predictably connecting.
Yep.
Just emotionally, just connecting emotionally. Okay. So that's what it's all about. I could do how we've been going.
No, but I'm going to put you to the scene. Yeah. Give me the scene, Billy. So now, where are we?
So we're halfway through the movie. Mm-hmm. He's broken into the house.
Yeah.
And he's torn down all of the wallpaper. He's gone down the wall and scratched all the wallpaper off and stuff. They brought him into his home. They said, you live with us now and all that stuff. And they're sitting him down at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And the dad is giving him a logical lecture.
On ethics
yes.
Or morals, ethics.
Yeah, okay. So we'll see. Okay.
We're going to try and help you find a way to replace the drapes and the towels, but our confidence in you, Edward, is not going to be so easy to replace.
Dad.
Okay, a little ethics. You're walking down the street. You find a suitcase full of money. There's nobody around. No human person is in evidence. What do? A, you keep the money. B, you use it to buy gifts for your friends and your loved ones. C, you give it to the poor. D, you turn it into the police.
Dad, this is really stupid.
Kim, I'd keep the money. Simmer down.
Edward?
Hey, how about after dinner we go down to the bowling alley? That'd be fun.
You're not seeing Jim tonight?
No.
We had the coolest show and tell today. This kid brought in a box of baby possums, 10, maybe 12, totally naked, no hair at all.
Honey, this is fascinating, but I don't think your father's finished yet.
Thank you, dear. Edward, we're waiting.
Give it to my loved ones.
Oh, Edward, it does seem that that's what you should do, but it's not.
You dope. Everybody knows you're supposed to give it to the police.
Good thinking, Kevin.
Well, think about it, you guys. I mean, that's the nicer thing to do. That's what I would do.
We're not trying to confuse him more. We're trying to make things a little bit easier for him. So let's cut the comedy for a little while, all right?
I am being serious, Dad. It's a much nicer thing to do.
Well, we're not talking nice. We're talking right and wrong.
Shut up.
Oh, goodness sake. No wonder poor Edward can't learn right from wrong living in this family.
Diane.
How good's Diane Weiss?
Oh,
the first couple in there where little kid tries to tell the story and she goes, that's fascinating, but we're not doing this. And then I can't remember the second. There was the other one where I was like, oh, she nailed that too.
Yeah, I mean, even in the end, how's he meant to learn right from wrong?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
so
it's
good.
So what's happening in that scene?
They're trying to teach him ethics at the dinner table and he just can't do it.
Yeah. And was that the problem? Was that the reason everything's gone wrong? Because he didn't know right or wrong?
No. What?
Because the other people misled him.
Yeah, like Winona used him.
Yeah, so he hasn't done anything wrong.
No.
And what do you think is the answer to that question?
Turn it over to the cops.
Think about it. I'm not saying that's not the answer.
Well, I think that's the answer.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I did because I thought about it at the time.
Yeah.
That's what
so
I
you
like
find a bag full of cash. There's no way that it's ever going to be.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's not my money.
Yeah.
I also see a lot of movies like No Country for Old Men where you find that cash. Just give the cash back. Just give the cash back.
Yeah, so I know your point.
If it's imaginary cash that's come out of nowhere, well, maybe. But I don't. The origin of it, I'm like.
So what if
Sorry.
I tell you? No, I think giving the money to my loved one.
Yeah, it's okay. That's your choice. I'm going to judge you.
Beautiful. What did you do then to me?
I connected with you. I let them know that it's like sort of okay what you're doing.
But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the classic thing that we do as parents.
Sorry.
We sit them down around the dinner table at the end of the bed and give them a lecture about.
That's why we're here. Yeah.
But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He actually needs connection.
Yeah.
If you're going to give him that and he says, keep the money and give it to my loved ones, you connect with them on it. And go, isn't that actually beautiful?
Yeah.
That you're thinking about the people in your lives and how you can make it better for them.
All right. Yeah.
I'm not saying which one's
okay.
right or wrong.
Okay.
I'm saying that is how you are sensitive and responsive to the kid in front of you.
Yeah, be more like Diane.
Yeah. And
Diane
just,
Weiss.
yeah. But Edward's beautiful. Like he's this beautiful kid and that community is less because he leaves it.
The community is definitely less because he leaves it. Yes. Yeah, that's a great response. I like that.
Yeah.
Connect with the answer they give you, regardless of what they send
what
back
does he
over the
give?
net.
He gives
you what he's going to give you. Let's
my
connect on
beliefs
it.
is that the loved ones in my life. He's had no loved ones in his life. He's been there a
finally got
minute.
some.
He's been there a minute and he still prioritises that. He's a beautiful human. It should be celebrated about him. The morals and ethics and logic will come after. Our logical brain supports our emotional one. It does not lead it.
I love that. Well done. You really schooled me there.
Mate, I've been in an RV for 2 weeks just thinking about this. So it's been beautiful. I've missed the pod so much, mate. I've missed you. I've missed the pod. It's really funny because I've been a bit down and stuff. And Annalise is like, yeah, I think once, you're back doing the pod and you're back sitting in clinic meeting the kids. Yeah, I get so much out of that. And
it's nice.
I'll save the unsolicited therapist sending an email.
It's not unsolicited. It's what we're here for, mate.
No. But yeah, so anyway, questions. Questions come in. Need questions, shorts and longs, more detail the better. Please, please, please. I know there's phenomenal professionals out there. I've met so many of you over the last month. Please give us your gold. It goes out to thousands and thousands of people through this pod. It's one of the best things that happens on it. We are trying to skip the wait list.
Yep.
You don't need to come in, and all these kids do not need to be seen. All these parents don't need one-on-one support. We can give them the evidence and what we know works because we've honed it through thousands of hours clinically sitting and meeting the kids having the toughest times. Share it through the podcast.
As the parent in the room, you're a parent too, but you're a clinician. As the lay person in the room, parent who's trying to learn, I love little things like fire and wire.
Yeah.
And you go to another one, something and call. Something calls another one. I'm sorry, I put you on.
Catch the calm.
Catch the calm.
Yeah.
We love those things.
Yeah.
Because I can potentially remember those when I need to. So if these clinicians and experts have something cool like that, love those.
Yeah.
Just catchy things.
Yeah. And then the reflections that come through are beautiful too.
Yeah, I love reflections. Yep.
Please.
Yep.
Yeah.
All of it. Guys, this is where I do my wrap up. Send those messages through to popcultureparenting@gmail.com or send them through via Instagram. But stay tuned to the polls as well that fire up on Instagram for your short questions. We'll drop those about
the
Monday before.
Yeah,
anyway,
Monday
you
before.
guys don't have to worry about that. When you see them, you answer.
I forget half the time.
It's fine. Billy, it's so good to be back.
Thanks, mate. It's good to be back.
Brilliant. Guys, enjoy the episode and we'll speak to you soon.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.